hey, do you love writing, but like you want to be able to write faster? I'm telling you, the instant gratification is so satisfying. I'm going to show you some tricks I guarantee you probably haven't heard anywhere else. I'm going to show you my workflow that I developed as a writer using chat as a tool. I don't really use GPT anymore, but it's still pretty useful. I'm going to show you how to use it just in case you don't have access to Claude or can't afford it. They're both the same price, $20 a month. For whatever reason, if you just want to use a free version, I think GPT gives you more free time. But if you're going to be serious as a writer, you really want to pay for one or the other, I recommend paying for a professional plan, $20 a month to use Claude. You want to use the best one is the Sonnet 3.5 or Claude 3.5 Sonnet. You don't want to use Opus or any of these other models. None of these are going to be this one you want to use. That's the one, and it works so good for writing. Anyway, so let me briefly tell you why you want to do this. So when I have written 8 novels now, 8 finished novels. Well, some of them are kind of still unedited. I'll show you an example of that in a second. But I can really edit them within like 3 or 4 days using this technique I'm about to show you. But nonetheless, 12 books in total now. And what happened is somewhere around book 6, I just kind of, novel 6, I kind of started to not like the process anymore. I don't know what happened. I think it was this, well, I know what happened. I don't like the fact that I was writing books. I don't like the editing process. Let me show you an example here. I would have my book here, and I don't like the editing process. So here's a quick sample. I'll be showing you what it does to it in a second. It reads too fast, right? So I need to go, this is just the rough draft. This is like me just getting the novel out and done, right? This whole novel is done. This is just the first chapter. All of it says like 80,000 words long. And the overall idea of the story is good. But what I need to do is I need to go in and I need to make this longer. I need more introspection, maybe sensory details, so that we can paint a picture more about the world he's in and everything. And then I need to spread that out throughout. I need to add some more narration to this part here. I need to add some more of the backstory and so on. So I'll give you time to read that if you want to, but I do recommend reading this. I'm going to show you like how much different it is in just a second. I want to show you what you can do and how you can do it way, way better with some few tricks that you probably never heard of before. And so yeah, so basically I just started with like an older GPT, like GPT at 3.5. It wasn't doing that good at editing. By the time I got to 4, I'm like, hey, it's actually editing pretty decently. And I would just use it to kind of edit my work. I still have to go through and add all the extra details and do all that part of the editing. But then 4.0 came out, and now it was good enough at taking this, and it was straight up good enough at editing it. So watch this. I'm going to show you a prompt here. And this is without anything else, right? This is just standard. I'm going to show you how to be beefed up like this one over here, for example. Make your own GPT to beef it up. It's all free, easy to do. Anyway, so I'm telling it, rewrite this with more narration, introspective thoughts, ideas, speculations, then bring out more details in like painting a picture with world, well, the world with senses, like using the senses. I want a mix of Dean Koontz meets Meg Cabot, sprinkle in some humor, and then I have that little bit of my book I just showed you, and bam, I have it do this on default. Watch this as it writes. You can read some of this. So look how much better it is. Already it has taken that first paragraph and turned it into 2 paragraphs that is more impactful. It has more ideas of what happened. And see, added things like twin suns, whatever. Like I would tell, hey, this is Earth. There is no twin suns. And so you want to make sure you have some sort of document that has notes in it, and you want to upload that here before you have it writing. So you take your document, you upload it. That's gonna be all the basic notes like character descriptions. Not really the description so much, more about their personalities and any key facts about them that's important, like they drowned when they were a kid, things like that. Some of their backstory, some of the things they've already done in the novel up to that point. You want to have some world building background information, some things about the world, that this is future Earth. There's not twin suns, obviously, things like that. You wouldn't have to tell it that. You just tell it this is future Earth, and there's not like that there's just one sun, there's synthetic grass and so on. Just kind of give it a brief outline of what the world is like so it knows what, and then you upload that file right here. You click it, go to your computer, upload it, and then you have it write for you. Look how much longer it made. Holy crap, that's so much longer. Probably wouldn't want it to be that much longer. If I did that for the whole book, the book would be like twice as long as it is now. And that would be like 160,000 words. That's way too long. Ideally, like 90,000 words is ideal for like a young adult novel. Even for bigger novels, like 100,000, we really don't want to go over 110,000. That's typically a really good size book. And then you can go over that sometimes for certain types of genres and stuff. But typically, that's where you want to be. That's the money spot. I mean, please take the time at least to read this first part so you can see what is done to it, right? Because I want to show you why you want to use Claude. Before I even show you how to use these things and all the tricks you can do, I just want to show you, we're going to start with a default normal one. This would be normal what you'd have if you just went on and logged in, give it the exact same prompt, and I want to show you the difference that it makes using Claude. One, by default, it's going to do this. You can tell GPT to do that, to say write it in a doc, and it will do something similar. It'll use the canvas. Look at this, just check this out. Look how much faster it is too. It's better and faster. So that's why just please read at least these couple parts right here. If you don't do this, then you're not really gonna know like how or why it's so much better. But this is so much better, right? It has so much more nuance to it. I'm gonna scroll down here so if you want to read more, but you can. Go ahead and pause if you need to read the rest of that. Just so much more nuance. It's just way better, right? And I pause for it so you can see that the difference, right? Anyway, how do you do all this though to make it even better? Because watch this. If I go back here, and notice I'm not uploading any files or anything like that, that you'd want to at least upload something about your notes and stuff like that. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make styles. I'm going to choose a style here. I'm going to show you different ways you can do this. And by just choosing my style, watch how it's going to be better already. It's now going to fit more into the style that I want. Well, maybe objectively, maybe it won't be better necessarily, but some people might like the other version better than this one, who knows? But nonetheless, you can see that it's written very nicely. And this has more of the humor because of what I told it to do. Like this little humor right here, the grass squeak beneath his feet, a sound that always reminded him of his mom's ancient rubber ducky collection. Don't ask. That's pretty good stuff. And you continue on to read more of this. And so it's just so much more rich, right? Now I can tell it, hey, this is really great, but I don't want to add that much extra detail. Let's, or I can actually just change now that I'm using this. Now, hold on. Now that I'm using the playful suspense, I don't have to do all this. So anyway, since Claude is the one you should be using, I'm going to show you how to use it first. So the first thing you want to do is, one, you can use a project. And by doing that, we don't have any right now. You go over here, you can create a project. When you create a project, right here, create a project, you can then name the project. So name it like writing novels, writing funny novels, whatever you want it. And then here you can describe what you're trying to achieve, right? So you can explain, let's say, write, I'm just gonna say write novels actually. Goal is to write good novels and to write my writing by adding a bit more sensory details to paint a better description, add a tad of humor, plus more narration, like introspection and callbacks, and I'm going to pause while I do this. Right, so then I'm just to give an example, I'm just going to keep this short. So then I just said plus more narration, like introspection and background information, like my dad always saw off-worlders or said off-worlders were shit cans and that they could not be trusted. That little bit right there is going to make it to where what it's going to do with this little information right here, what it's going to start doing is it'll find places where it can think of how it can build like backstory. And we use that to build backstory. And especially if you have notes that have some backstory, it'll find a way to kind of blend that in to the narration. Like let's say something's happening, and it'll say, oh yeah, like the time when my mom told me blah, blah, and it kind of fits into the story. And then you would create the project. You can add more notes here and stuff if you want to, create the project. Now you have this project you can work within. And then so while working within the project, which gives you some idea to do, you can also have a set of project instructions if you want to. This is optional. So provide Claude with specific and relevant instructions, information for this project. And so if you wanted to do that, you could. And so you can, in this case, I have this right here, right? So that's what I have in here right now. And if you want to add more, you can. You can add more content. So you can like add a Google Drive or add a file. So in this case, you would add your notes for how you want it to write, let's say. You can also add notes to, the story you're working on and some of the characters' backgrounds, things like that. And that all becomes part of this project, so you don't have to keep uploading every single time. You just click on the project and bam, you're good to go. So you just click the project you want and all that's there. And then you want to click on this. Now this is the next part I need to show you how to do. So in this drop down, you can choose how you want it to do. By default, it has like concise, it has normal, explanatory, formal. None of these are that good though. You don't want to use those for writing. So I have the ones I've made. I'm gonna show you how to make a new one. You go here to create it. Well, first let me show you how to edit one, just in case you like this one that I made. Let's say this one here. This one's based on China Mayville. And how I made this is I literally just took, I gotta edit it like this. Let's go to this one here and edit it. So this one is based off of China. I just literally took a chunk of China Mayville's writing and pasted it in. And then you edit with Claude. And so you can see how you can edit some stuff here. You can ask it to do other things. You can be a bit more atmospheric or much less nuance or add some humor. You can, have it change a little bit like that. And so actually I'm gonna add that. Add a bit of humor here and there. Or actually, let's just say sprinkle in some humor. And by doing that, it's gonna add that to what's already there. And it's gonna update this thing, right? And then you can save the changes. Now you can also go here and you can edit manually. And this shows you like what's actually in here. So this is what is in here that it's looking at, right? So it has some examples. Obviously, it made this from the text. I just copied and pasted some of Mayville's writing. China Mayville wrote Perdido Street Station. And so great book, by the way. And he really likes to go into like details about descriptions and things like that. I just want to see how good it can mimic his writing. And then, so now that I added to ask the humor, it's somewhere in here, it's going to say humor. I think it's up here somewhere. Anyway, it adds that ID in there. But I can go here and edit this right here myself. I can go write in a deeply introspective and emotional nuanced style that explores blah, blah, blah. Let's say there's something in here I didn't really like. I can erase that or I can change it. I can say, be more concise, let's say. Or I can say, oh, here we go, use subtle comic undertones that highlight the absurdity of human emotion, landscapes, blah, blah, blah. Right, then it has some examples down here, so that's great. You can maybe even copy and paste something from a comedian. That could be funny to add to it. And then anyway, then you would save the changes after you make the changes to save them, and that's how you can edit it. But how do you make a new one? You just click on create right here. So first off, you would click here, then you click on edit and create styles, and you click on create custom style. And you can either add a writing example. So let's say we grab something online, like a transcript from a comedian or something. Actually, my bad. You wouldn't want a transcript from a comedian. That could be like part of the sample or something you want in there. You want something that's actually like what you want the end result. So maybe there's a certain writer you like Meg Cabot. You can go search for Meg Cabot really fast and copy and paste from her book. You don't need that much of it. Like a couple pages, all you need at the most, like 2 pages. You can also take some of your polished writing. This is how I built mine because I wanted to sound and have my kind of humor. So I built it myself. I took a few pages of my writing and I added it in there. Then I went and edited it again. I add some samples of my writing. So there's some specific examples of the humor I like. That's how I built mine. Or you can describe your style instead. This actually works pretty good too. And so, for example, you can just say, I want a mix between Dean Koontz and Meg Cabot. And that's literally all you have to say. You can say more if you want, like maybe want a playful kind of, anyway, whatever. Just however the kind of writing you want. Then you generate the style. And here's the style. It gave it the name Thrilling Charm. I don't like that at all. You can change that so you don't have to keep what's there. So you can go here, you can rename the style. So I don't want to call it that. I want to call it Koontz meets Cabot or something like that, just so I know what it's really for me, so I know what it's about. I'll probably never use this one just for the video. Then you can go in and you can edit the style manually to see what it did. So write with a blend of suspenseful character-driven narrative and lighthearted, moody dialogue, incorporate elements, blah, blah. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to further say a mix between Dean Koontz and Meg Cabot. So it won't actually do that. You have to go and type that in manually. But but saying that creates a good thing here that needs all these words, and then add that to it. Click Save Changes, and bam, you're good to go. And if you wanted to add it more to, you can also edit here, and you can tell it like add something else to it, like much less witty, or be more funny, or be less funny, or be more sporadic with the humor. Don't add so much humor all the time. And then it will take that, update the file so that has like, it basically puts it into like AI lingo, so AI understands what you're saying basically. Now once all that's done, now I can select that new one here, Coons meets Cabot, and I can now take my this piece of my work here just to show you what it does with it differently. Bam. And I can paste now that I'm under a project that had some stuff there. I should add more notes to it, like obviously like notes about the book and things like that. But I'm not going to do that right now because that would take too much time. I can copy paste this, and I can say I don't even have to tell it to rewrite it because it's all in the notes. It already knows all that. That's in the part of the project file. It's that this is for rewriting. And so it's just to automatically do it. And that just makes it so much faster. I don't have to prompt it every single time now. I just come in here and boom, it's ready to go. Now, can you achieve this same thing through a very clever prompt? Probably, but this makes it so much easier. And I've noticed that for me, I just noticed that prompting it isn't quite as good. The only thing I might want to say inside the instructions, inside the project workflow instructions, so I have to remind it to do it here all the time, is to write it in a new document. And you can say that, right? I can say right now, write this in a new document. And what it's going to do now is just put it over here in a new document. I just prefer that workflow better. That way I can just download it. I can click this file right here, and it'll put it over here. And then I can boom, I can see it. So as it has a bunch of files over here, I can click on them and go back to each one, and then I can, copy and paste this and download it. I don't know why oh yeah, you can also click here to download it. So what's cool about that is it puts a file. I can then click here to download that file, or I can just copy and paste it into my Word file, which is what I usually do. So I'm gonna let you read this for a second and see how you can see how much better it is. Or at least it's now in the style that I kind of want it to be in. You can see that kind of matches that. You can see if you know Kuhn's writing style and Meg Cabot's writing style, you'll kind of see that this kind of feels like their style. Or you can just do Meg Cabot if you wanted to. Now for some reason it wanted to start, instead of starting with I can tell it, hey, you know what? I want you to zoom out first and kind of describe the setting a little bit and that plays running. Don't have them run right into the sky right away. Kind of keep the beats the same. I can say something like that because it kind of changed a little bit, but it reads well. Now, just to show you the difference, watch this. I'll take the exact same thing, but now I'm going to use this one here. Remember, I did update it I asked it to add a little bit of humor. This is based on China Neville's writing, and I asked to add some humor to it. And then let's see what it does with that. And this is just way too long, so I'd have to tell it like, okay, you need to write much shorter. Like try to stick somewhat to the same word count. Just add a little bit more words, not too much. But I'm going to give you a chance to read some of this because it's really good. So go ahead and pause and read that. Come down here. So if you like this kind of style, I think it reads nicely. Let me pause here for a second so you can read this. Like, look at this. Thunder rolled overhead, nature's own commentary on their strained tabula. The synthetic grass cracked with building static, responding to atmospheric pressures, both meteorological and emotional. Clay's knockoff sneakers buzzed against the artificial turf, conducting currents of usage through its bones. That's pretty cool. This has a kind of China Neville flavor to it. So if you like the way he writes, this kind of matches it. But I don't like doing that. Right? I like it to match my style, which is why I make my own. But I just want to show you could do that and how different it can take that exact same sample and make it so different by just what you choose here. Right? So the whole workflow works like this. After you have all that ready and set up the way you want it to be set up, make sure to give it certain files, like I said, notes and all that. You can also upload notes here. You can also link it to a Google Doc. So that's cool. It's easy to set up. If you try to do this, it'll ask you to connect your Google. If you're already connected on the browser, then boom, it's just easy to set up and it's good to go. So now instead of having to upload it, you just click the Google Doc and then boom, you're good to go. So make sure to have all the notes, like I said, in the background. But this is how it works. Let's say we're working on a new novel, right? Well, let's say we're working on an old novel. So I would take my novel and I would go through each chapter. I would copy and paste each chapter. I would actually do this inside of ChatGPT. I paid for both. So the reason why I do it in GPT and not here is because Claude has kind of limited amount of time that like a limited amount of words you can put out per time. and I can easily reach that limit by doing this. So I go to ChatGPT, I would start a new chat with it, and I would then paste my entire chapter in here, and which it will you can paste like 10,000 words. It's kind of crazy. So usually a chapter is like 3,000, 8,000 words, and so I'll paste my chapter in here, and I'll say, please summarize this chapter and incorporate all the important details. This is going to be for notes, so that as we work and write this book, these are notes for yourself, so that you know how to certain important details and stuff about the characters and things like that. And so it'll go in, it'll summarize with a paragraph or two or three that chapter, and then you would take those summaries and you would say chapter one, and then you post those in a Word document, and then you build up that Word document with a summary of all the chapters. And now you can take that document and upload it every time, or you can put it as part of the project. And so in here, when we're in that project area, you put that as part of the project notes. So now it has this outline of the entire book. So it kind of has a good idea of the world and how it works and all that kind of stuff. And then I might post also just like one full chapter once we complete it. That is one full rewritten chapter. So it kind of has ideas and stuff. And if any time anything interesting, it writes anything interesting that is new, that's not in my notes, like, I don't know, maybe it says something, some background information or something like that, just to make sure it stays consistent, I'll copy and paste that into the notes. That and then I'll update that file. That way, it knows that piece of information, right? Anyways, so then you would go through like I just did. I would then take this. I would go like this. This is way too long, so I would tell it to shorten it. And I would just copy and paste right into here, right? This is already highlighted still because it's highlighted from when I last had it. I'd copy and paste it in here like this, boom, and then it puts me where I'm at now. Now I know this is the next part, and I would copy this and paste it and have it just keep going like that. But I wouldn't want it to be this long. That's way too long compared to what was there. It might be fine for the opening, because you want the opening to be a little bit slower pace anyway. But I don't think I want it that slow. That's a little too much information. So I would just say, hey, let's cut this down a little bit. Like, let's rewrite that again, but a little bit shorter. And then take that and sass with that. Nice. Rewrite that a little shorter. So it's going to take the essence of what's there. You're not going to like lose anything. And it's just going to rewrite it, but make it shorter so it's not so long. But the essence of everything that's there is still going to be there. As you can see, like the essence was there, but now it's a lot shorter. And so if you don't want it to add too much stuff, but it's more than what I had, right? It reads better than what I had. The synthetic grass whispered beneath them, each artificial blade conducting currents of unspoken history. Oh, this is this style. I didn't want it in that style, but anyway, you get an idea. So it does make it shorter. If you want something between those two, like almost, let's get something between those two. And then from that point onward, it should understand what you want and just keep copying and pasting and going. So that's one workflow. Now, for those that really insist on using GPT, I can show you how to do all this in GPT. There's some really cool tricks in GPT too that you might not know just for talking to it in general. But so another flow you might have is you might want to start from scratch, right? So I'm still going to use my project though, because that's the novel project. And then I'm going to use, let's say, like this one or something. Now, as you're writing, let's say another way you can use this to write. So you can use it for just light editing. Let's say you don't want it to mess with your writing too much, but you don't like the editing process and you don't want to have to hire an editor. This edits so good, there won't be any misspellings. There won't be any words that are used incorrectly. Like some things that editors miss is maybe you use the wrong eight or the wrong type, like you used there versus they are, or versus like that, whatever. Oh, not that. That. Wait, hold on. What am I doing? So there are versus there. That you might miss little things like that, and AI doesn't miss that kind of stuff. So it's really good at editing. And all you do is just say, do some light editing on this. Oops, for flow and grammar. Don't extend it. Right. So then you can do that, and then you can tell it to just grab this part here. There's probably not much mistakes in it, honestly, but boom, like that. And now it's going to just follow those instructions, and it's going to make a lightly edited version of what you have there, right? So as you can see, it's just a lightly edited for flow and stuff. Just reading real fast to make sure. Oh, cool. Actually, add a little bit of humor. See, because I have it on this, if you don't want it to do much of anything else, just put it on normal. right? Normal's best for that kind of light editing, but you can just do light editing, and now your work's ready to publish, right? But if you want more heavy editing, like I've been showing you, then I just showed you how to do that. Now, what if you want to create a story from scratch? You really like coming up with ideas, but you don't like writing at all. You're like, I like coming up with story ideas. I like coming up with characters. I like building the background. I like thinking of scenes and all that. I just don't like physically typing. I don't want to have to type it all out. One, you can use Google Docs and just use your voice to type like that. If you don't know how to do that, I can show you. It's pretty easy, or you just look it up. There's probably videos already on that, on how to do that. Make sure you're on Google Chrome. The option won't be there unless you're on Google Chrome. But what if you just really don't like typing much at all? You don't like coming up with the story that much, but you like coming up with ideas. Well, then you can just write notes. Give a very rough draft where it's not really writing. You're more like just telling it what to do. You're kind of talking with with it, right? And you can actually talk with it with voice. Or this one you can't. You can talk with voice with ChatGPT, or you can just use Google to voice what you want to say, and then you can just copy and paste it, or you can just type it anyway. So you'd say something like, I want to write a book. You need to have some sort of notes though, like some sort of outline with the characters and things like that. Sure, if you like creating stories or you don't like the writing process, but you like the creation process, you already have a bunch of notes and for the world, how it works, and for the characters, you'd update that, and then you would start the book. And you'd be like, all right, so scene one. So this is start a new thing here. Okay, so new book. This is chapter one, scene one. And then you just tell it what you want. So let me just come up with some goofy idea real fast to show you how this would work. Right, so I had the basic idea of the scene I want to play out, and I'm going to tell it, if you need to, break this up to more than one post if you need to. Don't rush it. Right? So here it is. I just tell it, scene one, Jake Thumper. Actually, I don't like Jake. Jack Thumper is a detective. I think I actually wrote Jack elsewhere anyway, didn't I? Anyway, whatever. I think so. Jack Thumper is a detective. This will be a noir type book, but with humor. He works out of a rundown trailer in Georgia. Now, a lot of this would be in the notes, right? I would have notes of what the story is like, what kind of story it is, all kind of stuff. But just to show you, I'm putting it all here in the prompt. He works out of a rundown trailer in Georgia. His assistant is a sassy character named Nancy. She reminds him that bills are due. Funny back and forth about that. Build the world and build these characters. Then have a customer come in named Cherry, a local stripper that works at Pink Pony. Her friend Angela went missing. She doesn't have much money, but she can get more, she says. Jack has, I don't know why I put scene. Why did I write it like that? Jack has seen this sort of thing before. It was all bad news. Usually it meant that the person was dead. Break this up into more than one post. If you need to, don't rush it. That's important to say sometimes because anyways, otherwise it won't do it. Also, I need to tell it, write this in a new doc, just in case. I think I have it in my project. I want to make sure we use the project and Rosh. Ooh, that even gives you a cool name for the chapter. So anyway, if you want to read this, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right here for a second. And I'm going to scroll down here. Actually, let me pause here for a second and then scroll, pause again for a second. And then I'll scroll a bit more. And there you go. And then it asks you, it says, I've started with the opening scene, establishing our main character and setting while building the world, humor, and noir elements. Would you like me to continue with Cherry telling him about Angela? I can craft that next section, really diving into the case details and developing Cherry's character further. And then I can also say I want there to be sexual tension between them as it continues. I could have said that from the beginning. And so if there's none here, I haven't read this yet. If there's none here, then I would ask it to do that because that would probably make it more interesting. So this is good, right? So it's making, it's setting up the scene. It's cool. It's saying this personality. It's setting up this kind of dialogue between Nancy and Jake, like I asked it to. I like this little banter right here. It was raccoons. She says, kind of funny. I love this part. This is actually good. This is good right here. Don't mind him, Nancy said. He thinks he's Humphrey Bogart. He's Jack Thumper, all right. And this is definitely his office, even though the sign outside still says Earl's Bait and Tackle. That part's great. Right, and then when you use this method, there's probably gonna be parts you don't like and parts you're gonna want to change. It's really easy. You can update it really easy. Let's say I don't like this part right here. I wanna change like most of this right here. I want definitely the part where she puts money on the table. And so I'm gonna say, okay, keep all that, but let's change the exchange between Cherry and Jack. First off, they have a hidden attraction. Let's delve, or let's go deeper into Jack's mind and the narration. Have Cherry place some of her $1 bills and fives, which Jack narrates is from her stripping. She can, she says that she can get more. Now, if you want to put it in quotation marks, you can, but it'll probably use those exact words if you do it that way. So if you wanted to have more freedom about how, with how it words the dialogue, then you can do it this way. She says that she can get more, maybe even by tonight. But Jack also knows she probably has a kid she pays for, or but Jack also knows she has a kid to care for. I mean, if you don't want the kid, you don't have to have that. But I think that'd be kind of a cool touch. And well, maybe not. Actually, I'm not going to do that. Also, have Jack mention that he knows she is from the. Also, have Jack also narrate rather that Jack knows she is from the Pink Pony because he because many of his cases have led him there, so he knows some of them, something like that. Anyway, and so now it's going to take all that's there, it's going to rewrite it all, and most of it's going to stay the same. So you can actually see what it's doing, right? You can see the parts it's rewriting. That's so cool. It's just updating the documents. All of this is the same, but now we're going to get some different with Cherry. So start from here. Well, if it isn't Cherry for the Pink Pony, Jack said before she could speak, recognizing her instantly. The club had been the scene of enough of his cases that he probably qualified for a loyalty punch card by now. He'd seen her there plenty of times, usually on stage making more money in 3 minutes than he did in 3 days. Her voice had that particular South Georgia drawl that could make even a grocery list sound like a country song. Didn't expect you to remember me, Jack. I'm not going to try to do the accent. Because I don't know how Georgia people talk. Didn't expect you to remember me, Jack. I don't know, something. The way she said his name did something to his insides that he really didn't want to examine too closely. He leaned the hard way that he learned the hard way that mixing business with pleasure was about as smart as juggling oh my God, I can't read right now. Juggling lit matches at a fireworks factory. Nancy threw a wadded up post-it note at his head. Stop staring at professional, or at least your version of it. I don't know if I would want her. I think maybe she should roll her eyes or something. I probably have to change that too. Cherry's lips twitched into almost a smile as she sank into her client chair, a beach chair with only minor structural damage. That's great. She opened her purse, the kind that could hold either makeup or a small arsenal, and pulled out a stack of bills. The ones and fives still carried the faint scent of vanilla body spray and broken dreams that seemed to permeate every strip club's atmosphere. It's about Angela, Cherry said, something or smoothing the crumpled bills on Jack's plywood desk. She's missing. Nobody's seen her since Tuesday, and she paused, her fingers trembling slightly as she arranged the money. I can get more tonight, even. Double this. Jack studied her face, noting the worry lines. Anyway, you can read the rest. You get the idea, right? So it really did take that scene. I'm gonna read this real quick. Oh, I love this part right here. So like they're arguing, just because you haven't read this, you should though. But they're arguing, not arguing, but like basically she's like, no, trust me, Angela wouldn't just up and leave without her cat. Whisker tins, that's great. I love this right here. And then the air conditioner chose that because he's like he knows that she's probably dead. The air conditioner chose that moment to make a sound like a duck being strangled by a saxophone, which felt oddly appropriate for the situation. I love that. Jack knew he should turn this case down. It had all the warning signs of the kind of trouble that started with the missing dancer and ended with him getting shot by someone's cousin's brother in law behind Waffle House or behind a Waffle House. But something in Cherry's eyes made him hesitate, something that went beyond the usual professional damsel in distress act she'd he'd seen plenty of times before. Or maybe he was just a sucker for trouble and platform heels, just another Tuesday in paradise. I kind of like how it's adding that kind of noir flair a little bit there because I told it to. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty good opening. I would think I would probably go back up here. I would just copy and paste this part and say, let's just work on this part right here. Let's extend it some more, add some more banter, some play, so we get a better feel for the characters and for the situation. And then let's go more into let's. And I would also actually I would just say slow the whole thing down, but I would do it in sections. Like I'm like, all right, let's do this part first before Cherry gets there. I'd copy paste that, say let's extend this, add more character building, more narration and stuff, more background information. And then I would take the next part with Cherry, and I would copy and paste, the finished version, I would copy and paste that to my Word document. Then I would take the next part with Cherry, and I would copy and paste that here, and I would tell it, hey, let's extend this a little bit more. Let's lean more into the kind of flirting that's happening here, lean more into the thoughts that he's having, some more introspection about what he thinks about it, whether he thinks that she's being genuine or not, things like that. He knows that she's a stripper, but damn, he can't help it that she's just so good looking, things like that. And then I would have them extend that part. Then I would then take that rewritten part, put it in my Word document, and you just keep working like that, right? And then you just think about, well, what happens next in your story? And you should have an idea, obviously, if you like creating stories, then you should have an idea of kind of what happens next. If you don't know what happens next, you just kind of have an idea where it's going, like, okay, we need to somehow get from here to like he starts investigating, how Angela went missing. You don't really know where to take the story. You can ask it, continue this scene, let's see what happens. Like, I want you to be creative and continue the scene and let's see where it goes from here. And but kind of tell it like a little bit where you want to go. Okay, like don't go so fast. Don't just make it action packed all of a sudden. We need to slow burn this. So let's go ahead and have to start investigating, but I don't know what happens next. So you can say something like that, like, okay, finish this scene out. Jake takes the case. So something like that. So that's just gonna finish the scene out. So now Jake takes the case. I would ask it to write this in a new document because I don't like having to try to figure out where it just left off. I forgot to say that though, but it's fine. Cool. So actually, he's writing kind of a lot more than I thought so. So I'm gonna leave it here for a second so you can pause it, and then I'll scroll down, pause it again, scroll down, pause again. Cool. So it actually finishes out the scene quite nicely. It added kind of a lot of stuff that I wasn't expecting. Let me see here. I love this right here. She talks about how, Whiskers, Mr. Whiskers was on a special diet of salmon treats, and Nancy started a cat with a better diet than us. Last week we had ketchup packets for lunch. They were fancy ketchup packets, Jack defended, from Chick-fil-A. I love that. Oh, another thing that's great, notice how it knows this is Georgia, and so it has a lot of information at its fingertips, right? Within its programming, not programming, within its brain, so to speak. Its model of the world that it was trained on, all the data. And so it mentions Buckhead because it knows the area, right? And you can actually ask it, hey, lean more in. Let's bring more Georgia flair to this, right? Bring a little bit more description that lets us know this is Georgia. That lets us know the writer knows that this is Georgia. So you could actually, Georgize it basically add more little things that if someone from Georgia or someone's ever visited Georgia would be familiar with, and that's going to make it a little more, I don't know, just down to earth. It just adds something to it when you have a little bit of flair like that, where it doesn't feel as generic. All this is good. Right, so that's cool. I like how it ended the scene. This is kind of cool here. Cool. So it ended the scene nicely. Then I would ask it, okay, that's good. Now let's start a whole new document. For each scene, I like to start a new document so I know exactly where we're at, what's going on. This is cool. You can actually download this like this, download the file. I'm actually going to download this because it's kind of cool. And that just go to your downloads folder. Now, or you can just copy and paste this and put it to your Word document as you want it. But I kind of like some of the stuff in here um, that I might actually use for something else. But just not like as it is, there's some ideas that are pretty cool. Anyway, so that's how you would do that. And then you could say, okay, cool. Let's now work on another scene, the next scene that happens after this, where he starts investigating. But you need to give it some sort of place to go, because if it doesn't have a destination, it does really bad. Without a destination, if you just say continue, write the next scene, without that destination, it might even ask you. It knows it's not good at it, right? It might even ask you, like, okay, but where should I go with the scene? What's going to happen? Sometimes it'll do that. Well, it'll refuse to write because it'll ask you questions like, what do you want me to do exactly? But anyway, if it doesn't, it just starts. It'll usually escalate way too quickly, right? As if it's a short story or something. It'll escalate way too quickly. Next thing you know, you got thugs coming in with guns, and there's a firefight. You're like, what is going on? This is not supposed to happen yet. And they're trying to run and get away, whatever. So you want to say something like, all right, let's slow burn this. Let's really bring some Georgia. So let's slow burn this. Let me pause while I do all this. Now, if you really don't know where you want the story to go yet, you should, if you like creating stories, you should have a good idea where you want this to go. Like, what happens next? Does he find? What kind of clue does he find? But if you don't know, you can say something like this and see what it comes up with. Maybe it comes up with something stupid, or maybe it comes up with something good. You're like, oh, and now you might not use what it comes up with, but it might give you an idea that you can tell it to rewrite and so on. So let's slow burn this. Bring in some knowledge about Georgia so the readers know we know our shit. Also, this will make it unique, less generic. Think of like how the writer of True Blood brings some southern details. Jake needs to get off his lazy ass and start investigating. Something cool should happen. Bam. Then I go ahead and just hopefully it does a new document. It should. Yeah, there we go. So I'm gonna let it run its thing right here so you can start reading this if you want to. And then once it starts scrolling, I'll go back up here. I can pause it there and let's come down here a little bit, pause it there, come down here a little bit, pause it there. Okay, cool. So if you want to read all this, you can. I recommend doing that so you can have an idea kind of what it's doing. Hopefully you've read this. This is great. So he starts to tell like Nancy calls and like hangs up and then he hangs up whatever. Now he's following the car. She calls back. It's like, if you die, I'm not doing your paperwork. Also, you still owe me $47 for the coffee maker. That's fantastic. And see, because I asked it to bring in that Georgia flair, it's doing it. It says he went on to Peachtree Industrial because everything in Atlanta was named Peachtree something. Like the city planners had been really into fruit trees and completely ran out of other ideas. So like it has all this wealth of knowledge to like use that. You can also just use it for research too. So working this way is more like working with a writer as a like you have a good writer friend and you kind of like have a writing partner to work with. So in this case, you're like, hey, I'm really good at coming up with ideas. You say to yourself, I come up with really good ideas, good characters, good dialogue and stuff, and good stories, but I don't like the writing part of it. I'm not good at this whole part, coming up with fancy, funny sentences and good callbacks and narration, all that stuff. And so now you have a writing partner literally here to help you. You just talk to him like you talk to a person and tell them to do stuff, and bam, no questions asked. You get what you want, and you can sit there and write stories now. Well, not technically, you're not doing the writing, but you're telling what to do. Right? You're giving instructions on where to go with the story, and you're steering the story in the direction you want. Also, this is kind of fun just to do. So you can also just like use this as a choose your own adventure kind of book, sort of. You can actually instruct it to do that, by the way. But you can kind of use this to build a story for yourself, one that you would like to read. Like, hey, I could give it very general ideas of kind of where to go, but that way you're still surprised about what happens. And you can kind of use this as entertainment, a way to like, I don't know, almost have a story custom made for you. If you don't like how something's going, you just tell it, hey, I don't really like how this is going. Let's change it. This is kind of cool. So I said, make something cool happen. And look at By the end, something cool happens. He has a gun to his face, and Mr. Blake would like a word. That's pretty cool. And so now I'm just going to show you what happens if you just say, cool, now continue what happens next, start a new doc. And if you keep doing that without any sort of guidance at all, I've noticed sometimes it goes off the rails fast. It goes too quickly, or it just starts coming up with nonsense. Yeah, quickly you'll just start feeling like, I don't know, where's this going? It's kind of meandering, nothing's really happening, or it's going too fast, too much is happening. So you want to give it some guidance, but I'll just let you see like this might be okay though, because I think it has an idea where it's kind of going. But in no time, if you keep just doing this, just keep saying, okay, continue what happens next, continue what happens next, it will get weird and not read well. So you want to read this if you want, just to show you, read this if you want. And then finally read this last part here and this part here. And it looks like it might be okay. But trust me, if you keep doing that, you can test it for yourself. I'm sure you're going to if you want to take this route for some reason. Uh, if you just keep saying next, 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 you'll see it doesn't work out so well. All right, so I just wanted to show you what happened. So I went ahead and had it write some more if you want to read this. Here, here, here. And right away, I noticed it's already started making mistakes, right? This is what I wanted to kind of show you like how it does this very quickly. So it already starts making mistakes. So the first off, when Jake, I don't know if you read the last one, but when Jake was at the, I can show you that really quick if I didn't already. I think it was Smoke and Mirrors. Was it this one? This one? Where is it? There, I think it was this one. Yeah. So he goes, Blake asks him to come in. Someone throws a brick through the window, which is supposed to be Nancy, but it has like a pink pony shirt. None of that made any sense. So right away, I start asking him questions. I'm like, okay. I said, first up, I tell it, you need to stop writing because I kept trying to write. So I said, stop writing. Let's just talk now. And so then I said, okay. Then I said, my question is, how did Nancy get there so fast and know where Jack was? How did she get a pink pony shirt? It runs through the logic. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And then I'm like, and how did Cherry throw the brick if she was at the pink pony? Because it had us anyway. And that's the solution. And like that doesn't work. And I'm just pointing out the problems, right? And I'm like, why did Cherry even start the fire? That doesn't make sense. So it's realizing there's problems here. So it's going to fix them. So what you might want to do is before you have it right into the scene, is have it share its thoughts with you. Be like, okay, hey, before you write this next scene, because if you just say continue, continue like that, this is what happens. You start getting these inconsistencies, things don't make sense. Like, what? How did Nancy get there so fast? How did she throw a brick with pink pony shirt? I know that makes any sense. And then why did Sherry start a fire? It makes more sense that Blake's men would have started the fire to get with it. But there's a good idea here, and we can easily fix it. But we could have avoided that problem altogether. But if problems like this ever happen, just have it stop writing. Let's talk about this. Let's work through the plot. After you work through the plot, then go, okay, now we figured it all out. Now let's go ahead and write this next scene again. And you can also have it share its ideas with you before it writes a scene. Say, okay, um, let's let's go back to Jake being inside with Blake. Share your thoughts on what you intend to write so that he can escape and get to the pink pony that is on fire, as Nancy told him. And so now it's going to share its thoughts. It's not going to write because I told it to stop writing. So let me think through this logically. So we have Jake in Blake's office with Smith at his gun. We need a way for Jake to learn about the pink pony fire that makes sense, a logical escape method, a reason for him to get out, and that adds to our plot rather than just escape danger. Here's what I'm thinking. While Jack is being threatened in that fancy office, Nancy texts him about the fire at the pink pony. That's what we already have now. Okay, all that's good. And then the news of the fire could cause Blake to react, perhaps make a call or give an order that reveals something. Jake would realize the fire isn't random. It's Blake's people destroying evidence. This gives us a reveal about Blake's involvement, higher stakes, urgent reason for Jake, okay? For the escape itself, instead of a brick, which was established, doesn't really work logically. What if The chaos of the fire news creates confusion. Maybe Blake gets an angry call from someone at the club, someone whose evidence is at risk. In that moment of distraction, Jake could do something clever with what's in the room, or maybe he uses his knowledge of country clubs from previous cases and triggers a sprinkler system or some other chaos, right? So it's trying to figure out a way. So that's good. It's trying to reason this out, trying to reason a way for Jake to get out of the situation that he's in so he can get to the pink pony. So, and then you can help him out too. Like, okay, I mean, the sprinkler system's kind of a good idea. And let's say, what if instead Jake has something for situations like this? I don't know. He has like smoke bombs in his pocket and just like throws them. Or I don't know, maybe he just or maybe Nancy gets involved. Maybe Nancy has been following him and she like busts through with her car or something, like backs into the window with her car and then says, "Get in." And like Jake, in that chaos, Jake like escapes, gets in the car, and they take off. Could be something like that could happen, or whatever. You just got to think through these kind of problems, right? You got to work your way out of the holes you get yourself into, and sometimes that's kind of fun. Or you can, just redo everything and make it to where Blake's not so clearly wanting to hurt him or something. Or maybe here, Jake or Blake can still change his mind and just be like, say something smart, Alec, better watch yourself type of thing, like I'm keeping an eye on you. Don't get involved in this one, Jake. I'm warning you. Something like that, and then Jake's like, all right, well, I got to take my leave. And then he gets to the pink pony. And then we realize that the fire was started most likely by Blake or Blake's people to destroy evidence that was inside of Angela's locker. But there's a piece of evidence that, and this was all in the writing if you read it. There's a piece of evidence that was in the locker. And then that leads us to the next clue. And that gets Jake going to the next thing. But Cherry's like, I'm going to come with you. Something like that, right? Now he has like a partner with him, which is Cherry. And that's going to build sexual tension and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is decent, but like I said, I just wanted to demonstrate to you what happens if you just give it full reign. And if you are going to try to give it a lot of freedom like this, I highly recommend to do something like this first. Say, hey, before you write the next scene, please do me a favor and share your thoughts on what you plan to write. Like, just give me some, quick, um, let me see, how would I even ask it? Like, okay, instead, we will have Blake let Jack go. I kept saying Jake, I think. We'll have Jack go. He will say something smart, which means, hey, watch your back, stay off this case. This is your only warning type shit. And then, but first, run me through some quick bullet points, if you want to be quick, some quick bullet points of what you plan to write. And this way you have an idea of what it's going to do before it does it. So you know that if there's certain ideas you don't like, then you can tell it now to make those changes before it even writes the scene. Anyway, so you can read this and then you can see if you like everything, go ahead and write it. If you don't like everything, say, okay, well, let's change this and this, and then now write the scene, right? So this will just help you help tailor it more toward where you want it to go and how to steer it in the right directions. Right, so that's it. I don't like using this method at all. Like, it's not very good at coming up with stories, like I said. But sometimes, if you're in a rut, you just don't know where to go next. You can have it do this a couple times, like just, no, I don't like that, try again. No, I don't like that, try again. And that sometimes will trigger an idea in your mind. Like, oh, and then get your creative juices going again. It gets you out of that funk, that rut where you can't think of ideas. And then you can go ahead and write, the bare bones for the next thing, or write as detailed as you want. That's up to you. My workflow now is I write very bare bones. I write as bare bones as possible. I just write the next scene with some dialogue, a little bit of action, some basic ideas of what's going through their mind, some basic descriptions, like just as bare bones as possible, almost like a screenplay actually, with just a little bit of thoughts thrown in there and descriptions, and then I just hand it over and say, all right, rewrite this, and boom, it rewrites it. Like, very bare bones. Sometimes even more bare bones than this now. Like, this right here is even too much sometimes. So I'll even write less of this sometimes, but enough to where it knows what's there. There's enough bones there to base it off of. It's not just like creating it on its own. Right. So that's it. Thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And also let me know what do you think was better, like as far as these things I used, the playful suspense. I gave you a couple different examples, or this one here, the one that's more like China Mayville rather, and then the Coons and Cabot one was pretty cool too. I didn't have time to go into ChatGPT, but if you do want a video on that, let me know. I can show you like how to use it, how you can make your own Explore GPTs. Literally just click here, create the GPT, kind of go through it. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can also create a project similar to how we made a project in Claude. Then you can use that project and then also use the GPT that you have. And yeah, that's it. It's pretty easy to do. All right, thanks for watching.